I think this is the best I'm going to do. So let me move. Well, you can see my stuff. There's a little bit of a delay. Okay, so yay. Thanks, you guys. All right. Okay, so I'm going to get going. I'm going to show you a technique today called Scrappy Strips. And this originated from Bruno Bertucci, who lives in Australia. Him and his wife Kylie Bertucci are demonstrators in Australia, and he came up with this technique, and it's been all the rage. So I'm going to show you 2 different ways to do this. Everyone seemed to like this one better, so this is the one we're going to work on today. I gave you a list of ingredients, so I'll set this right here so you can see it. I gave you a list of ingredients: a card base, a piece of designer series paper that was 4x6, which I chose this, and it is double-sided. These 2 pieces are going to be my colors that are going to coordinate, and then this is going to be my backing piece. And you know, it's all up to you whether you want to make the card open. You know, if you want to put your sentiment this way and make it tall so your strips are sideways, or if you want to make your card this way. It's all up to you. It's all a matter of preference. So, and everyone's going to be different because you guys are all choosing different papers and so forth. So we can set this card base aside because we're not going to be using that for a few minutes. And what you need to pull out is your designer series paper. We can set this aside as well because that is going to be what we're adhering our strips to. And what you're going to need to pull out are the cardstock that coordinates with it that you're going to use in your strips. And you're going to need a paper trimmer because we are going to cut this up. All right, now this is our mini paper trimmer and I absolutely love it. But if you don't have a mini paper trimmer, because it was available for people when they signed up for the membership with Stampin' Up, the starter kit, they got a little mini paper trimmer for free and some beautiful papers. But anyway, you can also use our really nice paper trimmer. Just remember that the light is for scoring and the darker blade is for cutting. So, taking it back, I've got my little paper trimmer, and it's just going to be a random thing. So everybody get your paper trimmer out and then just start cutting pieces, you know, that are kind of in somewhat of a triangle. And it doesn't matter how big they are or how small they are. You don't have to be consistent. But I'm going to be cutting up all this designer series paper and then just setting it aside here. Well, I'll set it aside so you can see it. So I'll set it up here. How's that? Okay, so this is going to take a couple minutes, so you can go ahead and do yours. But I just kind of I'm just going back and forth, and you don't have to keep them in order. Sometimes I like to be matchy-matchy, but this card, you don't have to. And again, this coordinates with my last live that was about using your pieces to make cards, your scrap pieces, and how easy it is to make a card. And if you don't have a paper trimmer, you can cut it with scissors. Totally up to you. Again, I do not have to keep these in any order. And they don't have to be consistent with one another. You know, one can be a little bit wider, one can be narrower, one can be more of a triangle. So we're just cutting this up. I guess the reason that I might want to lay these out when I'm cutting them is because you'll want to have your two end pieces because they're straight. Maybe not. Doesn't really matter. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is these are my coordinating cardstock colors, so I'm going to chop those up too. So just like I did with the paper. And I'm really not going to worry about these. So this will go much faster. And you don't have to have coordinating cardstock. I showed you it wasn't your favorite, but it was still pretty that it was monochromatic, where it was just using the designer series paper. Okay, so that should be enough for this card. So there's some scrap pieces. And then I'm going to do the same with my crushed curry. Oh, I forgot to tell you my cardstock colors. So when we Stampin' Up's designer series paper comes in a pack. Usually, most of them are 12 by 12s. Some are 6 by 6 packs, which are just as good. But no matter what, your package of designer series paper comes with a title and also tells you what coordinating colors Stampin' Up has that matches what's in the pack. So this particular designer series paper that I'm using is called Perennial Essence, and I picked out Blackberry Bliss, and I picked out Old Olive because that is like almost my favorite, all-time favorite color, and it just coordinates really well. And then I also picked out Crushed Curry, and I pulled those out of the designer series paper that I chose. So let me get back to cutting this up. And I hope you're doing this with me. Who's all doing this with me? Let me scroll down. Okay. Tell me if you're doing this with me. I don't want to interrupt your cutting, but I'd love to see that you're doing it along with me. Don't be afraid. I was afraid when I first... I'm like, oh, I really don't want to do this because it looks like it's too... You know, I'm kind of a wannabe perfectionist, but I've been letting it go lately. Really trying to step outside my comfort zone. And this is a fun project to do, especially since it's using scrap pieces. Okay, so I have my paper trimmer. I'm going to set this aside. And, excuse me, the Old Olive. Oh, good, Beth, thank you. I'm glad you're making it with me. I have my cardstock matching pieces, and I think you can, let me scroll back up on my computer here, my laptop. Oh yeah, you can see my pieces up here too. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take these pieces and you'll see it's gonna, this is longer than your cardstock is cut, and there's a reason for that, because in the end we're going to trim it down. So this is helpful to have your strips longer than your cardstock is. Okay, so I'm using Multipurpose liquid glue, and I absolutely love this glue. So if you have your wish list and you don't have some of this, I suggest you definitely put this on your wish list. It's $4. It is, like, again, you get a pen tip and a broad tip. The broad tip is great for big projects because it just spreads it in a, I'll just show you. It spreads it out. So that's awesome. And you can get in the corners. It's kind of squared off on the edge, so you can get in the corners of large pieces of designer series paper. But we're going to use this pen tip. And it's good to set it on its side. Most people say to, you know, store it in a shot glass, and that's what I was doing for the longest time. But then I found when I went to use it and I took the cap off, it came out in gunks of, you know, big drops. So I read where somebody else laid it on their side, and that works much better. So I suggest you lay it on your side when you're not using it. Okay, and I'm not putting it on the very ends, so I've got glue on here. Hope you can see. Yeah, you can see. I'm not putting glue at the very tips because that's going to overlap on my cardstock. So I'm just putting it like that. And again, this is white glue. I know I told you about this in my Tuesday's Tips, Tools, and Techniques with the toolbox, what's in your craft supplies, that if you have it like this is another reason it works great on designer series paper. But if you put it on while it's still white, you have wiggle room to be able to move it around. See that? And it's okay, it's going to dry clear, so if you get some of it on your cardstock, that's okay. And then if you let it dry, so if you leave it sit for a couple minutes, it turns tacky, and you can use it like a glue dot. Okay, so I just did that. Now I'm going to add a coordinating cardstock piece. And I'm leaving a little bit of room. And remember, you can turn your paper over, your designer series paper over, and use the other side. Yes, yes, yes. So I think I'm going to start like laying out my pieces. So if you're more comfortable in just winging it, sorry, I just hit the camera with my head. You can just wing it. But if you are, you know, dare to be different, just go for it. Ooh. Good enough. I'm shaky. I think I'm going to do this. Because you don't have to be perfect, right? Got some. Okay, see, so this is going to help me with my spacing too. A little bit. How's everybody doing? And then I'm going to find a little strip. The narrow one. Is it the narrowest one? No, maybe this one. Okay, we're going to make this happen. All right, so I just laid mine out. I'm just going to turn them over and go for it. You don't have to put a whole lot on. I'm going to move them just a little bit closer together so the spacing you can just see a little bit behind. I think that's going to help. You don't need too much glue or adhesive. If you're using a tape runner, you can certainly, you know, our snail adhesive works fine too. I just like the glue because you can, like I said, you can have a little bit of wiggle room. So you can move it around if you don't have it perfect and you're shaking like I am. Okay, everybody doing good? I'm not hearing from anybody. So I'm going to assume you'll see, even though I'm a perfectionist, I'm not going perfect on the strips, as in I'm not going every other one like I started out. What? Okay, we're getting close to the edge here. And here's where your pencil might come in handy, because once again, I'm kind of a matchy-matchy. Can still move that one over just a smidgen. Okay. Oh my goodness. Well, divine intervention. This is going to come out just perfect. Holy cow. Thank you, Lord. But I could show you how to fix it if your piece is, the piece that you have left on the end is too wide. See there again, I wiggled this a little bit to make this fit. And there I have finished my card base piece. And don't worry about this, because after it dries, you can take a little adhesive remover, or you can just rub your finger along and pull up like a gummy. You can pull up that glue with your finger and it'll go away. Excuse me. All right, so there I am. How are you guys doing? Okay, next thing I'm going to do is, look, see, we have this overlapping. Now I could take my paper trimmer, my little mini paper trimmer, and I could stick it in here and I could cut it. But I get a little scared that I'm going to cut off center and cut off cardstock. So I'm just going to take my paper snips and I'm going to come here. Whoa, and I'm just going to use my paper snips to trim all these pieces off. So you can use a paper trimmer or your paper snips. Or heck, you can just leave it if you want. Okay, see? There's one side. Here's the other. This one still has a little bit of wet glue there. Are we having fun? All right, so these little pieces I'm going to scoop up. Oh, phooey. All right, good enough. Pick those up later. All right, so there is my piece. Now, we can just put that right on our cardstock. You can also, you can cut another piece, which I did already, that is 4 by 5 1/4 if you want this to work perfectly, so you have a border all the way around your scrap pieces. So you can add this to your piece and you have a finished card basically. So let's go ahead and do that. Or if you want, you can just trim off this edge and trim off this edge if you want it to look perfect on your card. So you have 3 choices. You can just mount this on just like it is, which is absolutely fine and beautiful, and you can open it up either way. Okay, or you can trim off these end pieces so it's more of a perfect fit on your card base, or you can just add this piece to a cut card base, which is cut to 4 by 5 1/4. And then you have the perfect edging all the way around your art piece and all the way around your card base. So I'm going to do that. Does anybody have any questions? Nobody's talking. You're all busy doing your card, right? Along with me. Okay, there again, I have a little wiggle room to be able to get this just right. If you have one of these adhesive removers, Stampin' Up! Used to sell these. We do not sell them anymore, but it's just basically a rubber eraser. And you can take that rubber eraser and gently go along where you've got some tape or some glue, your snail or your glue, and you can just rub out the excess. And I obviously had glitter. I have glitter on my adhesive remover, so I'm getting glitter on my card. That's okay. All right, so there we go. There's the piece. You can decide if you are, how you're opening up your card or how you want it to open up. So normally what I would have done before I added this is I would have used snail adhesive, and I would have taken a piece of ribbon and tacked it, you know, taped it behind before I laid this piece on, but I'm not going to use ribbon on this card today. Hope that made sense. This is the Scrappy strip card. Voila! Missed the beginning about the sizes and the cuts of the strips. Okay, well, that's okay. If you notice up here, Stephanie, here's a bunch of strips that I cut. I kept them in order just so you could see. I kind of just took my paper and kept moving it back and forth and got all these kind of like triangles, squared off triangles. And then I just put them on my card base, but the dimensions of the cardstocks are up in the description. Oops, no, they're not. They're in the previous video or post that I made, so that you could bring your pieces with you. So you can do it either way, and then you can just add, let's see if I keep a little plastic case of sentiments here. There we go. So there's an extra sending healing hugs, so you can do it this way and open it up. And I would love to put that on dimensionals too, because it just adds a little more. Or you can do it this way. It all depends on your preference. Isn't that pretty? Okay, I'm going to do one more with you. Special treat. So there's that one. So while I have your attention, I'm going to do one more. And this one, I'm going to make like the other card. And here's another card that I made that's really pretty, that just uses the paper only. So, I'm going to let this be a puzzle, because I'm going to use a separate piece. I've got my card base. Okay, I've got a matching card background, and this is actually cut to 4 by 5 1/4. Yes, 4 by 5 1/4. So it fits perfect on this card base. And then I have my piece of designer series paper that I'm using. That is, oh, it's actually the exact size. But I'm going to wing it. So you know, being that I'm kind of a perfectionist and making these, I actually measured out with a little bit of spacing how much I would need width-wise so that I could put it together just like a puzzle, because you'll see these pieces like go together. They're just separated, right? Okay, so if you want to stay with me, that's what I'm going to do. But first I'm going to cut this to 4 1/4 by 4. So 4 by 4 1/4. This is the original designer series paper that I said to cut at 4 by 6. So I'm going to take my paper trimmer here and decide which end I like best. I kind of like this. All right, so I'm going to take it up to 4 1/4 and cut off this piece, and you can just set it aside to use on something else. Right? Okay, this is going to work. I'm going to pull my paper trimmer back out, my mini paper trimmer, and these I'm going to keep in a row, all lined up after each piece that I cut so that I can space them out just right. I'm really a visual, so I figured I would show you this way too, so that if you liked it, you could do it with me. So there's my first. And kind of be consistent about width. You don't have to be, but oh, let's see, how many pieces did I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 on this one. And how many did I have in this one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I cut these a little smaller. For me, I think the hardest thing, after I've finally put one together, I think the hardest thing for me to do was to pick which designer series paper I was going to use and the coordinating colors. That took the longest for me. Okay, so there we have the pieces all lined up. This is the card base. This is my mat that I'm going to adhere these on. I mean, you can go ahead and put your pieces on how they go. And if you want to, put them right to the edge. Totally up to you. But you can see how the spacing is going to be if you put your pieces on right now. And if you want to cut it, your matte piece, which is this Petal Pink, you can cut it smaller like we did for the first card so that you can wiggle your pieces around and then cut them off. It's definitely a lot easier the first time you do this. But I'm just checking for spacing. So that's why I'm putting these all on, so that I can see how far I need to space these pieces from each other. But it's kind of, you know, it reminds me of a puzzle, only because these all flow, right? Okay, so I see that I've got a lot more wiggle room. or a lot more, a bigger amount of spacing in between each. So I'm just going to go for it now. And this you can go all the way to the top because obviously you're using the whole piece. And I'm going to put it right to the edge. Stampin' Up! Has so many beautiful designer series papers for you to choose from. And just so you know, our annual catalog is coming out in June. And all of the papers that we have right now are retiring. So, if you browse through our catalog, which you can go to my website here, carryout.stampinup.net, and look at all the designer series papers, I would suggest that you go grab the ones that you want before they're gone, because tomorrow Stampin' Up! Is releasing their retired stamp set and, well, their retired list, period. They're going to, obviously they do a rehaul and put some brand new products out. They carry some over and put a whole bunch of new great things out, and I am so excited because I just found out a couple things that I'm not allowed to share with you, but I just found out a couple things that I'm really excited about in our new catalog. And yes, I should be using my silicone craft sheet underneath this so that my glue doesn't get all over if I put too much on and it goes over the edges, which is what these little gunky things are. But anyway, this is going to be really pretty too. Please show me your creation. Post it on this page. I would love to see it. Because no doubt everybody's going to have something different. Woo. Everybody that's still on with me, name the music that you like to listen to while you're crafting. Tell me what kind of music you like. Because for all you watching that participate, I'm going to put you in a drawing for a Happy Mail. And Happy Mail could be a really pretty card. And it could be a prize. Could be all kinds of things. Hi, Joyce. So, what kind of music do you listen to? Okay, so this was a little bit, I had a little bit of space left over here. And because I used that glue, I got to wiggle this one a little bit too. But this little space that's left over, because I don't want such a big gap over here, is not going to be a big deal. Because, watch this. I'm going to take my trimmer. Boom. Cut off that piece. Did I? Cut it off a little crooked, so I gotta go again. There we go. Okay, so voila. There's my piece. And I think I like it this way. I don't like it this way. It looks like it's upside down to me, so I think I like it this way. So I'm going to put it on my card. See how I cut that off, and you can't even tell that it's a little bit off. There's a little bit down here, and that's okay. Voila. So, there we have it. This one's sticking over just a little bit, so I will take my scissors, trim that down. And I'm going to take my snail and, oh, look at that. So, do I cut this? I'm not going to. See that there's a little bit of overlapping on the paper, on my designer series paper here that I didn't catch, but it's going to be fine. Okay, and there I'm going to have the card open up like this. And center it before I press it down. And there we have another card. Isn't that beautiful? And I can take a greeting, whatever greeting you want, pop it up there, and send it in the mail. How pretty is that? You use scrap sheets of paper, you know, designer series paper. Use up those scraps and get more. Okay, so there you go. I've got both. Oh, you guys are telling me Ed Sheeran on Pandora for King and Country. God only knows. And who else? Classical Concentration on AccuRadio. Interesting. All right, very cool. Very cool. Okay, so here is my website, carryout.stampinup.net, for you to place an online order, or you can contact me. I would love to help you place an order. I hope you can see that okay. I'm waiting for the delay. There we go. So feel free to go shop away. Give me a call if there's anything I can help you with, or shoot me an email. I'm happy to help you place an order and get some great products before they retire. If you have any questions about these, just let me know, and I'm happy to help you there too. And again, post your finished product. Show me your cards that you made. I would love to see them. And then be sure to send them to somebody, because you're a blessing to others, and you'll be blessed by doing it, by sending a card to someone. So thanks for joining me. This was Listen at Lunch, episode 7, and I'll be back on Friday with episode 8, and Friday is Friday's focus. And if you have anything you'd like me to focus on or show you in techniques, this episode today was a special request, so I'm happy to accommodate. Until then, reach out to me with any questions, and have an absolutely fabulous week. Thanks for joining me. I just got to figure out how to turn it off. Where's the little button? Okay, so I might be here for a little bit. I will check out that link, Stephanie.